Good evening from Swansea, not from Swansea, from London, wrestling fans. I forgot I'm back in London now. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And you know what they say, Saturday night is alright for fighting, but was it last night? Last night's episode of All Elite Wrestling's Collision was certainly a controversial one, and today on the show we're going to be breaking it down segment by segment, and it's going to be a good one, so you're not going to want to miss it. But let me firstly introduce the panel for today's show, and let's start with the head of Opinion Shirt Wrestling Republic, Anthony Ricciardi. How are you today, Anthony?
Doing all right. This was one that I originally wasn't going to do, and you had an open spot. I kind of went, well, this show made me feel like at times whether or not the booker was on drugs or I was on drugs watching it, and I know I wasn't. So I definitely wanted to talk about it today.
Absolutely. I mean, it certainly was a show which was it felt very random. Some things good, some things maybe not so good. But yeah, also joining us, we have the guy who actually reviewed the show for Wrestling Republic and gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars, which is below average for, a national TV weekly television show. And that man is David Sheldon. David, how are you today?
I'm still recovering. Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be. I'm really excited to be here today. Normally, I don't come on to review to talk about the AEW shows on the daily because I feel like it's a bit futile. You all know my opinions. You can read them on the website. But I wanted to for this one because, crikey Moses, what was this show? A show that had some fantastic wrestling, or not, maybe not fantastic wrestling, but some very good wrestling. But what a strange episode of television this was. I'm excited to get into this because I've got a lot to say.
Absolutely. No, it is one where I think there will be quite a few things to say from all of us on certain parts of the show. But we got Bobby Petito in the comments. Shout out to you, Bobby. And last but certainly not least, we have Bret Sternberg joining us today. Bret, how are you?
I'm doing great. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone had a great week. It was a good week for wrestling, and we're going to have a great show and a great time reviewing it, like I said. And like you said, Ben, it was a show last night. I don't really know what else to say about it. It was a show.
I mean, that's certainly one way of looking at it. And let's just jump right in head first, because that's what AEW did last night. It started with a traditional, Collision backstage promos, to kick off the show, which I'm a fan of. But then very quickly, Swerve was, he was cutting his promo, and AR Fox attacked him from behind, and the two started brawling. They then went down the entrance ramp right into a match, and this I loved. I really like it when, any wrestling promotion starts a show in an explosive way. It hooks you right in as a viewer, right? It goes from thinking, this might, be a slow start, whatever, maybe you're chatting to your friend, haven't noticed this quite come on yet, but bang, you're in there, there's action, AR Fox, Swerve Strickland going at it, showing that they obviously don't like each other. We know their history. But that brings me to the issue I had with this segment. We know their history. And why wasn't this match done like 2 months ago? Why did they just randomly do it on an episode of Collision? Am I missing something here? I don't think I am. I think they just revived this storyline for, one match for no good reason here. I mean, the entire AR Fox Swerve storyline was weird to begin with. Of course, he joined Swerve's group and then got kicked out quite quickly, and that was basically it. Well, anyway, Swerve got the win. It was a very fun start to AEW Collision, but yes, from a storyline perspective, it was a bit of a weird one, but I liked the explosive start. And Bobby Petito in the comments is saying that he liked the match between them two, and yeah, I agree. The match between them was a very fun one indeed. But Anthony, what did you think about this Collision Open?
I like the open where they're brawling to start the show. The fact that they were brawling on the ramp and they still did the opening pyro as if like it's fine. This is normal.
It was gold.
I like that. again, like you said, Ben, this made sense storyline wise if this took place 2 months ago. The fact that you're bringing it back out of nowhere with no build up, with nothing, made no sense. And that started the show off. This whole show was a lot of why is this being booked? It was a solid match. But again, Swerve's been in angles other than AR Fox that never paid off. We never got the Keith Lee match. I don't think we're getting that either at this. But at this point, maybe it'll be next week. Who knows? I don't understand what the logic was here. I understood why Swerve went over. I don't want to rehash history, but the whole AR Fox turn that they did and then they didn't do because he couldn't go international, that was a complete mess up, and I don't want to rehash that, but I don't understand what the logic was. And last night, good match. Have no idea why they did it last night.
Yeah. No, I mean that kind of sums it up perfectly, to be honest. Because it was it was a solid match. It was a solid storyline, but 2 months too late. If they do end up doing Keith Lee versus Swerve next week, that would be. I'd almost give Tony Khan credit then just for the lols, because that would just
that'll
so
just
funny.
tell me that he's watching. He's watching us.
Yeah.
That's what that tells me, because there'd be no other reason why you would book that. But then again, this whole show was, why is this being booked? But we'll get to that.
It really was just a common theme throughout the entire 2 hours. But yeah, a fun opening match. But do you agree with the storyline? The weird timing of it all, Bret?
Listen, I think that the timing is because of a certain reason. And that simple reason is that maybe Hangman wasn't there last night. Like, I really just think that it was just down to, we want to book a really good match. Who are we going to go ahead and grab? We know AR Fox puts on bangers every single time. Swerve is relevant right now. Who are we going to put him against? I think that was the best fit, in my opinion. And that's why it happened last night, because maybe certain individuals were not in the building. But besides that, I do love AR Fox, like I said before. I think that they are kind of messing up his storyline or his gimmick right now, because it's kind of all over the place. He's just showing up and kind of showing up and popping up in these matches and having great ones at that. But this Swerve storyline could really actually take him to the next level, and it could have some depth to it. I just think that what they're doing right now is not giving them, well, not them, but not giving AR Fox the justice he deserves.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I think it's hard to disagree. The fact that obviously he got dropped out of that story, the travel issues, which Tony Khan has talked about heading into AEW Wembley. I mean, of course, that didn't help AR Fox. And it was really sad to see because, like you just said, AR Fox is somebody who for years has just been somebody who's been working so hard on the independent scene. This guy, you struggle to, used to see a bad match of his. I mean, pretty much every independent show I'd, go on Fight TV and watch, he'd always be involved in some way, shape, or form. Usually a 6-man tag team match or something. But it's like, how can somebody so good go under the radar for so long and then finally be given their opportunity, and because of a travel issue, it just feels like it all got pulled away from him? Oh, I feel for him. I really, really do. But David, what did you think about this opening segment of Collision?
Well, I don't have a ton to say here that is any different from what has already been echoed. I think that it was a really fun start to the show. I enjoyed the way that the opening was structured. I enjoyed the interruption of the pre-show interviews. I'm glad they brought those back. They went a few weeks without them, and I do think it gives Collision a nice little identity boost at the start of the show. I enjoyed the match. That it was very, very good. But I do agree. I think they have bungled the AR Fox Swerve Strickland thing completely. Revisiting it now is strange. It was a very good match. The post-match brawl was decent. It was kind of someone runs out and attacks, somebody else runs out and attacks, somebody else runs out and attacks. It's standard wrestling stuff. But it was all pretty good here. We've obviously got Swerve versus Penta is the match for next week with a very, very flimsy reason for existing, which is fine if every single match on the show wasn't booked for next week wasn't booked like that. I want to see Swerve versus Penta, of course I do. And yeah, I'm excited to see it. It's again, begins a theme of which there are several instances on this show, which we'll get to later, of stuff just put together, particularly for next week and for this week as well, because why not? Why not? It was just a weird way to book things. Like I said, not a lot to say on the match that hasn't already been said, but I mean, I want to see Swerve versus Penta, so job done.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, it's like you said, in wrestling, there's always times where, changes have to be made. Perhaps, like Bret touched on, maybe Hangman wasn't in the, arena when he was meant to be, or something like that, and they had to do some quick changes. They wanted to, figure out a way to get to the Penta match that you touched upon. And also, like, the ending angle of that, following that match where they built up the main event of Collision. Those are all things I don't have an issue with. It always happens in wrestling where you need to make changes on the fly. That's just part of, live television. But here's the thing, like you just said, David, that doesn't need to be the case for every single match. This entire card, there was a theme.
It's card subject to change. And the one thing that I am afraid of, they're going to treat AR Fox like they treat Nyla Rose. We forgot that they're employed, and we just find them in catering when we need somebody for a match. I'm hoping that's not the case for him.
Yeah, I sure hope not. I'm sorry. I just think that he should really be playing this mercenary role, like a Loki in a sense.
He should still be with Swerve.
Yeah,
he should still be with Swerve because it's the story. I love the dynamic they had. They gave him the spotlight, and it just dissipated as quickly as it arrived. And it's if you're gonna kick him out, give him something new to do, because what they've actually given him to do is nothing, and he's just become, again, good match fodder. But unfortunately, there are 50 people on AEW's roster that are great, great match fodder. But you want to give people as talented as AR Fox something with more meat on the bones, and they haven't. Yeah. They haven't done that.
They could have easily booked an injury angle or something to explain why and kept him with Swerve. They could have done that. But the fact that they booked that match and not knowing he couldn't fly internationally, that's on AEW. That's not on AR Fox. That's on AEW, but he got punished because, he's a nobody from the indies that we just signed in their minds.
Although I will say just on that, if you can't fly internationally and somebody comes to you and say, hey, we're booking this match for London.
Oh, he should.
Yeah. It may be worth telling somebody before that thing gets put on television.
I think it's slightly more... my understanding, we're not a dirt sheet, we're not going to get into it too much, but my understanding is that he was not aware himself about why he couldn't travel until the issue came up later.
Until it became too late. Gotcha.
Yeah. So it was one of those things.
Regardless of the travel issues, regardless of any of that stuff, they bungled it either way. Under any circumstance, they've bungled it, and it's all an absolute mess.
No, I mean, I think it's hard to disagree.
What this match was Swerve on the ascent as AR Fox is cooling. So Swerve is coming up here. AR Fox is going down here, and it's just you want to meet it where both are. You want to meet it there, because when you meet it there, it's still, you can still have a great match because these two guys are incapable of anything other than a great match. But it's just a common theme on this show is I just didn't care all that much, which is a shame.
We know that AEW likes long-term bookings. Who's not to say that Tony Khan sat down with his notebook 3 months ago and planned the next 3 months of Collision, and this was meant to be on this show. This was meant to be the main event, the blow-off angle where AR Fox had left, and then they were feuding and all this, and then of course everything went wrong.
I think I know what happened. The piece of paper that it was written on must have fell behind a couch, and he just found it. It was 2 months ago. It was supposed to be on 2 months ago.
Yep.
Oh, I found this. I found this thing here. What have we got? Oh, it's Santana and Ortiz are on this. We haven't seen them in a while. Get that back to TV quick. Dan, get him back to TV. Who else we got here? Emi Sakura When was she last on TV? Doesn't matter. Get her on TV. Who
LFI
cares?
as well.
I'm gonna comment. I'm gonna comment on that one later.
Oh, it's
So,
it's half my cast of. This is just my roster list for Ring of Honor. Put them all on the show.
Are
Everyone.
they still under contract? I don't even know. But okay, let's see
Find
if
them
they're here.
somewhere. Find them somewhere.
Let's figure it out, but let's now move on and let's talk about somebody else who I think that everybody forgot was on the roster, and that's Lance Archer. Because Darby Allin came out, for some reason, a match with Lance Archer was happening. We always talk about, give us a story, give us a why. There was no why, there was no how. It was just very, very random. Jake the Snake Roberts was back. That was nice. Jake Roberts and Lance Archer. Darby and Lance Archer put on an unsurprisingly decent match. You'd expect it from those two because they're always great within the squared circle. But in the end, Darby Allin sneaked a win despite being, thrown about quite a lot. But it was what happened after that was the real, headline here. Jake Roberts came out and said, "You don't think I would have just, come here with one weapon, do you? I came here with an extra two." And out came the Righteous. I'm a fan of the Righteous. I have been a fan of the Righteous for a long, long time. Obviously, they've been on Collision, in the last, on AEW TV over the last few months, especially during that feud with MJF and Adam Cole. But let's be real about this now. I'm glad they're doing something with Lance Archer and Jake Roberts and the Righteous. But if you're going to do something, you better do something. We better not just forget about it and then hear back from them, a few weeks later. Because Lance Archer, he was paired with Jake Roberts. That's supposed to be something big. And since he signed with this company, they've just done next to nothing together. And it makes no sense because every opportunity Lance Archer's had, he's done fantastic with it. It literally makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever. But Anthony, give me your opinion on this one.
Yeah, I have several thoughts on this. The match itself, I've always liked the underdog against the giant. A perfect example is Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. He fought from underneath. Darby kind of did the same way with Lance Archer. And Lance Archer is somebody that I've always liked. I always thought he had something special. Unfortunately, I think because of his age, he's close to 50, they don't view him that way. Like, I really thought when they first brought him in with Jake, I was like, that's a phenomenal pairing. Jake is iconic. His promos and his ring psychology. Undertaker has said on record that he learned more about ring psychology from Jake Roberts than anybody else. And Jake being clean and being a mentor both on and off screen for Lance and other people, it's a brilliant move. So it disappoints me that they don't really use him. And, I understand Jake had health issues, so that's why he probably wasn't there a lot of times. But when they are there, they're not really using them. And in a lot of ways with the Righteous, I actually liked it because I was like, okay, Jake leading a stable of like dark individuals, I could see him doing that. If you're actually going to get behind it, if this is going to be a one-off or you're not going to do much with it, I think a large problem is, and this may be controversial to say it, Tony Khan's Ring of Honor, to me, feels a lot like WWE's ECW. It has the initials, but it's not the real program. And the Ring of Honor originals, if you want to call it that, are treated as like the stepchildren. They're used to be jobbed to AEW guys. And the Righteous suffered from this. The Kingdom's a joke. That's not what... If you look at the last run of Ring of Honor at the end, that final battle, they were a legitimate team. You look at them in Impact, they were a legitimate team. You go to AEW, and now they're like dumb lackeys with Roderick Strong in a neck brace. Dalton Castle's a joke. Like, all these characters that were built in Ring of Honor are not being shown as legitimate talent. They're a joke. Ring of Honor doesn't have a distinct roster. I know this became a rant on Ring of Honor now, but just in general, these are my thoughts when I see stuff like this. So I'm hoping something comes of the Righteous with Jake and Lance. I think you could do something with this if booked correctly and consistently.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you there 100%. We got Bobby Petito in the comments who also is agreeing, saying that he's interested in the Righteous with Jake Roberts. But like you said, Anthony, about the about Ring of Honor, it's kind of like this thing where as soon as, and I feel like this a lot with AEW, right? A lot of the time we're being, very positive about it because it's so, so good. But at times I do feel like, I don't want to say this is such an exaggeration, but paper over cracks. But like, it does feel like as soon as one bad thing happens with AEW, we then bring up like another 100 things, which, been like, we haven't spoken about it in recent times. And then it's like, oh yeah, those existed, and we were so distracted by, Bryan Danielson putting on another amazing match or something like that. I feel like that's what we see.
That's the case with all of wrestling. Roman Reigns does something great, and we forget about how awful SmackDown can be 75% of the time.
I'll agree with that one. I'll agree with the SmackDown thing, but in general, WWE get called out a lot more often for a lot smaller things.
I heavily disagree, because I think people are more, and this is coming from somebody who's got a lot of criticisms on this show, by the way. This is not me trying to go to bat for AEW. There are hundreds of problems on this show, but I do think AEW get called out for things that WWE don't get called out for, because people want to. Yeah,
I feel the opposite.
I don't think so. I think it's the opposite. I don't think
I disagree.
It doesn't matter what maybe WWE it's just, does. It's wrong.
Maybe it's just the places we're looking. Maybe it's just maybe we're just looking from two different places. I'm looking at, because I can't go 2 minutes without seeing AEW get heavy criticism from every angle that I look at, and it's just, that's just comes from, I think, maybe just the places that we see and where
and
we
the
go.
content being interactive as well. If it's based on social
absolutely.
media.
Yeah,
I want Archer and the Righteous. I'm saying it right now.
Well, the other part is to keep in mind, and I know WWE gets static too, and AEW gets static. WWE's doing record profits and signing major deals. I think that's a huge deterrent of going, well, the product's not good. Yeah, but the ratings and the money that they're bringing in, I think is all-time records.
That's not to say that's not. When I say that's nonsense, what I mean is that if all we go back to is, but look how great they're doing money-wise.
It's a business. David, it is a business.
But it's a television product. HBO make tons of money. If they put out something that's rubbish, I'm going to say that thing is rubbish. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. Well, the new HBO series is rubbish, but look how much money Game of Thrones is making. Crikey, how great is HBO? But again, I'm going to criticize the thing that's rubbish.
It kind of is a thing, though. The money, the overall company, they would be down if people were tuning out of their product because they weren't happy with it. So there is a correlation between the two. On that one, I do agree in this conversation, maybe that it's not related, but I do agree it does have, it is relevant to it. But Bret, you were touching on, you want to see the Righteous and Lance Archer together, and I'll agree, right? I think they do have potential.
I think that would be really cool. It'd be like go ahead, David.
So all I'm going to say is, and this is the reason I rated the promo so poorly. I rated it 2 stars out of 5. I felt like Jake was really struggling. He could barely get his words out. He looked really old. And I love Jake. Jake is an icon and a legend, and I love that he's on television. I'm just fearful that if he is spearheading a faction, that I just hope that his health is okay. And that's all I'll say on that. Because then the Righteous coming out and saying next to nothing didn't really help them either. But I love the idea. I just hope that it's executed well, and that Jake is of the right health to be able to do it if he's going to be a more regular feature on television.
No, absolutely no. I will agree with you completely there, David. I mean, I hopefully it is just the case of his health is fine now. He's obviously got voice problems, and I don't think they're necessarily going to go away. I will say this though, as long as he's feeling fine and all that, the effect that his voice kind of is having now, in a weird way, it kind of does sound like it kind of fits in with the gimmick, that dark gimmick with it. So as long as his health's okay, but yeah, like you said, hopefully that is the case, because obviously there's a lot of travel and all of that involved. But now let's move on to Dustin Rhodes teaming up with Keith Lee and a returning Mark Briscoe to take on the Workhorseman and Kip Sabian. I mean, this was a bit of a weird one, right? We saw Mark Briscoe backstage. Mark Briscoe, I love him. I think he's great. I honestly think he could have the potential to be, a decent mid-card single star in AEW. And FTR came out, they saw him. They said, if you need any help, we'll help you. And he said, don't you worry. I know two guys. Well, what is his link to Dustin Rhodes and Keith Lee then? Tell us. I know Clark always jokes. What jokes? He's being serious about it. Saying, why did Damage Control know each other? What's the link with them all? I know these three guys aren't a faction. It is different. But it just felt so random. Like, at least tell us why Dustin Rhodes and Keith Lee are now teaming up with Mark Briscoe to go against the Workhorsemen and Kip Sabian. This just felt so random. It just felt like a way to get all three men on TV. And for me personally, it didn't work. I mean, Bret, what did you think? Sorry, David, what did you think about this one?
Was just gonna say I'm passing it over to David.
Yeah, so there's no better way I can express this segment than by just reading you my review. So I'm gonna get my phone out. Apologies, sin of the podcast. This was my review of this match. Bearing in mind, this came after the Acclaim segment, which we haven't got time to talk about today, but I thought was terrible. Thought the Acclaim segment was rubbish, as was the match. So and I felt like I was in La La Land. This was the review that I gave the match. So Keith is back with Dustin again. That was the first point. I thought we were past that. What is happening on this show, seriously? What planet am I on? The match was fun. Nice little spot fest that was entertaining enough for the few minutes it went. But are we going to advance Keith Lee and Shane Taylor? Do we care what has happened to the booking this week? I don't think I can probably say any better than that. This segment was so bizarre. And it's not, like I said, I enjoyed it for what it was, and I will always love Keith Lee. Keith Lee versus Samoa Joe. Again, bad build, but it's one of my all-time dream matches, so inject it into my veins, please. The one controversial thing I will say on this, and I feel really bad for saying this, is I love Mark Briscoe. I love his in-ring charisma. His interviews don't do anything for me. They kind of irritate me. There's something about he's so hyper that it just kind of grates on me a little bit. And I love him. I think he's so fun in the ring, and he's just beams with that energy, and I love that. But to me, I did struggle to get through some of his promo segments on this show because they were so hyper. They were so like Mojo Rawley. It's just bang, 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 bang. And it just kind of gets in my brain. Maybe it was just the show, I don't know. But crikey, this was all over the shop. But yeah, Kip say, I mean, this was a Rampage match, wasn't it? It's ironically a feud that was literally started last week on Rampage when Briscoe came back and attacked Kip Sabian. This is a match for Rampage. That also could have got a bit more time on Rampage as well. It's just so bizarre. Why, like Keith Lee and Shane Taylor are feuding. There was no mention of anywhere on this show. So now we're going back to this. We're going to Samoa Joe. What? I had no idea what was going on here. Not at all.
No, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, David. I do have to agree with that. The one thing I do not agree with is Mark Briscoe, but this is one of the things which I think it's a very personal thing when it comes to wrestling. You know me, I love over the top characters, right?
Yeah, I do as well.
I'm a big fan of Pretty Deadly and all of that.
Yeah, there's something doesn't work, and it's nothing against Briscoe. I'm not criticizing Briscoe because Briscoe's great. It's just for whatever reason, his particular kind of promo, I just can't get on board with, and I feel bad for that because I love the guy.
You'll get the Shane Taylor match in a couple of months out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It'll be on a January Rampage or a Collision.
It'll be at a Rev Pro show.
You'll find the note behind the sofa or something. But now let's move on, and let's move on to something which is actually positive to talk about. Well, at least I thought it was positive. It was also another random match, right? At least maybe it was built on Rampage. I don't know. I didn't see Rampage this week, but it was Willow versus Emi Sakura. Yeah, this was random, but the match itself I thought was great. I keep saying this, right? But Willow, every time we see her, she's just so good. Like, the crowd is immediately invested, even if there's, not really a story there. She pulls everyone in, and in ring, she's sound as well. Emi Sakura, of course, in the ring is great. So that's just the most unsurprising thing, that one was good. But I mean, like I said, this AEW women's division, when there's characters and story, it's good. When there's not, then it's not so great. In this one, at least Willow has a character, and so does Emi Sakura. A bit of story would have been a bit nicer, but they're obviously going in a direction with Sky Blue, Willow, and Chris Statlander, because that seems to be where they're going. But Brett, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, this was just a filler match, in my opinion, until things are settled within that storyline so they can continue. I am going to go ahead and pull a David right now and read my review of this, to be honest with you. So I love Willow. She's one of my favorite women's wrestlers right now. I think she's amazing. Her vibe, her energy, she's positive. She just gives you a feeling when her entrance comes on and she comes out. It's just a feeling like I just get happy, and I do the clap with her too. So I really do love her. I think it reminds me a little bit of when Bayley was the hugger, but at the same time it's different because she's doing it in a different way. It's not so WWE or Bayley-esque, but this, and then I also feel like Emi Sakura, in my opinion, personally, I don't know if I'm going to get a little backlash for this, but she is the Indies version of Natalya. She's a great trainer. She's trained Kaoru Shida. She's trained Riho, 2 champions right there in AEW. I believe that she is a special wrestler to have in a certain position. And yeah, she takes on these characters all the time. They're different gimmicks, but at the same time, I do feel like her time and place has almost come to where I would rather her train more than see her on TV and see her trainees be on get the spotlight rather than her get the spotlight. Saying that, I do think this match was amazing. I think it was not amazing. I think it was a above average match. I'll say that. I love Willow, and I love Emi Sakura. I just think that Willow needs to be really utilized more because she could be like one of the biggest talents, I think, in wrestling. To be honest with you.
Wow. No, I mean, I definitely agree with you on Willow. She has that potential to be, a top star, future AEW's champion. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that should happen in the next 12 months, without a doubt. Emi Sakura being compared to Natalya, I mean, that's certainly an interesting one. I do see the comparison, I do, but I'm also not going to complain about seeing Emi Sakura on my TV screen, especially in this position, basically putting over Willow. I'm not going to complain about that at all. But now let's move on to the main event of Collision, where Lost Faction, I still can't say it, Ignorables. I can never say it. I can't even say it when I talk about New Japan.
LFI. Just say it.
LFI teamed with FTR to take on GOA and Ricky Starks and Big Bill. And this match was, just like I say every week about Collision, a great main event match. I mean, there are 3 things certain in life: death, taxes, and the main event of Collision will be good. But from a storyline perspective, it was just mixing a lot of storylines together, kind of ignoring the entire House of Black thing until they appeared at the end, and then the BCC appeared too. Huge chaos to end the night with. LFI, I'm glad they're back on the show. I said it last week. Roos being back is fantastic. Preston Vance, I think he's highly underrated as well. Ricky Starks and Big Bill, I mean, they're killing it on Collision. They really are in Gates of Agony. I mean, again, their involvement in this was very, very random, it felt like, but at least they built it earlier on in the show. The main event, I think I had the least issue with out of anything on the show. Solid, as always, on Collision to finish the show. But David, let me know your thoughts. Let's start with you. What did you think about this main event match?
Well, this was the highest thing I rated on the show. I gave this 4 stars. I thought this was a really fun car crash of a main event. I always enjoy putting a bunch of things a bunch of toys in the ring and just seeing what happens. And this in this case, it made for some really fun results. I'm because I Ricky Starks and Big with all the other ones all being able to be abbreviated with FTR, LFI, and GOA. I might just start calling them R&B, Ricky and Bill, just to.
I like calling them Billy Starks. Actually, that's my name
Billy
for them.
Starks. Yes, well done, Ben. Billy Starks, very very nice. But the thing with this this match was terrific. Really enjoyed it. I like the House of Black involvement at the end. No complaints with any of this. I just think a lot of the matches on this show were very good. I thought the Acclaim match weren't great, and there was a squash in there, and the other one was filler. The 6-man was filler, but the rest of it I thought was very good wrestling. Problem I had with this show is just everything around the wrestling. All of the way that it was structured, the way that things were thrown together, the slapdash nature of everything. That was my major issue with Collision, because the issue with AEW is never really the in-ring quality. AEW are sorted for the in-ring quality. It's just sometimes the cohesiveness can go completely out of the window, and this was an example where it just did not come together cohesively at all in the end. And it's a shame, like because this main event at the end of a more cohesive show would have been a really nice way to end it, and it still was a nice way to end it because I did really enjoy it. But it was just like it just felt like by the time I got to the main event, my head was fried because I'd been thrown in so many different directions with so much stuff just happening and like just headache inducing show that by the time we got to the end, it felt like I'd lost the plot. And it is a shame because like I said, this main event was really good fun, and on any other week would have been a real high point of a show. It just was all it was a weird show and a slightly nauseating one in terms of just being thrown everything in your face. And yeah, so the main event I think suffered a bit purely because of what came before it. Nothing against this because of the thing that actually happened, which was very good.
Yeah, no, and I mean the way it ended as well. There was a lot of chaos at the end, which wasn't really related to that match, particularly. I mean, it was a weird one. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking one more problem. One actual problem I did have. It was the post match, the one nothing to do with the match itself. Can we please decide whether Claudio Castagnoli is a face or a heel?
Oh, I know,
because he was and I get it. He's a tweener. That's fine. But literally this week he was a heel on Wednesday and a face on Saturday. Like, I've got nothing against them booking him as a tweener. That's fine. I like that you can go from he's in a face feud and then he's in a heel feud and then he's in murky waters. I like that. I think that makes them stand out from other people on the roster.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
it's hard to pull off.
Exactly the same time, it's really hard to pull off. I mean, it's working because the crowd went for it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just like, for the time being, if you're going to do stories, pick a lane. Are we supposed to cheer you or boo you? Once that's done, if you want to then move into, like, Danielson is the king of this. Danielson is one of the best people in the world for making you cheer and boo him, depending on what way the wind goes. But you've just got to make your mind up for individual stories.
I mean, what about you, Bret? What did you think about this main event match?
I think it was, like David was saying, I think everyone was just thrown together, and this was just a jumble of storylines kind of colliding, and it didn't make much sense to me. But at the same time, I was also kind of fried from the rest of the show, like David was saying as well, because it was just very back and forth. Every match on this show felt like it was almost like a filler match until we get back to the storyline. And there were several things in this match specifically that I was confused about and that I feel like didn't happen, in my opinion. I felt like should have happened. So I really want Andrade to come back and join LFI. And I believe that FTR needs to. I don't like the embassy at all. I've said it I was holding this back for a little while. I don't like the embassy whatsoever. I don't like the fact that they're with Swerve. If they were by themselves, I would like them. I just don't like the fact that they're connected to Swerve whatsoever, just because it just doesn't make sense to me, in my opinion. Prince Nana, amazing, love him, but I just would love if the Embassy was by themselves. They're a great tag team alone. I just don't think they make any sense with Swerve. I think Swerve would be way better by himself. But yeah, I just think that there was a bunch of tag teams thrown together, and it was hard to kind of collect everything that was going on in my brain. But at the same time, it wasn't a terrible match. And at the end of the day, yeah, it filled the end of the show, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as a show, like we said, it was a lot of chaos throughout it. But Anthony, what did you think about this main event? And I mean, kind of the show as a whole with it, just tying everything together. What were your thoughts?
Well, my first thing I want to say is I do enjoy the fact that you've revealed that your Benefer couple nickname for Starks and Bill was today. But as a whole, this was yet another situation where stuff is just being thrown together. This whole show felt like, to me, like when there's a show and there's like inclement weather, like it's a blizzard and not all the talent can make it to the show, so you just kind of piece things together to get a show together. That's what this felt like, and I don't think that was the case here. And this was a show that, like, an hour into it, I remember messaging David, and I said, how is this only an hour? I feel like I've been watching this for 3 hours. Like, this is brutal. So, like, this match, as good as it was like, oh, thank God the show's over. Because it just, you're throwing everything together, and I get what you're trying to do, doing the whole brawl and all these things going on to try to create interest, to come back, to watch the next episode, to see what's going on. The problem is, and AEW has this problem, they won't follow up with it. Thus, the show opening with AR Fox and Swerve 2 months after an angle for no reason. This was, I know you named this episode, was this the weirdest episode of Collision yet? Yes, 100%. This was the weirdest Collision and probably the weirdest show I've watched all year of anything of wrestling, because you might have good action, but you have no story and no reason why any of this is happening. And storytelling is the lifeblood of this business, and AEW needs to figure that out.
I mean, I think it's I think it's just very hard to disagree with any of that. I mean, coming out of the show, at least there were some stories, but I mean, look, if we just look at the card on face value for this show, I mean, none of it made any sense, does it? I mean, they managed to pull a lot of it off, and maybe that's because we're hardcore wrestling fans. We like good action, but like there was just no story, and you
look at the card in very much, just looking at it, you go, okay, this is a Saturday indie show at a high school gym. Those type of shows don't need stories. They're booked for just matches.
Or a live Rampage.
That's not what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be weekly episodic TV.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, as a counterpoint, and I'm gonna undercut myself in 1 second. Anyway, but are we slightly spoiled as wrestling fans that we've got a card of this quality and we're going, it's a local indie show in a gym? The fact that we've got Lance Archer versus Darby Allin. We've got the 8-man with the quality of people that we've got, and we're here. I'm not saying we can't complain about bad storytelling, but to completely dismiss the card, I think, is unfair.
No, I'm not dismissing the card. It's a solid card, but there's no story behind it. And an indie show doesn't have a story, but weekly episodic TV is supposed to. That's the difference.
To be fair, I think Dynamite next week is a prime example of that. An unbelievable card, packed to the brim with matches I've always wanted to see. But crikey, they're just there because why not?
Why is Daniel Garcia getting a world title shot? That would be my first question.
And that's the most built
match on the card.
It's the most.
That is a good question.
There's been two
how is he ranked?
And I love Daniel Garcia too, and even I'm saying, what? Why? I mean, like, at least make it one of those weird title eliminator matches and be consistent.
He's the one guy that is not chasing MJF. MJF has a half a dozen people out for him, and the guy that dances that's not even at his back is the
Yeah.
one that gets the title shot, not Joe.
Whoa.
Oh,
not
it is
Wardlow.
absolutely crazy. But we can answer all your crazy questions, guys, tomorrow, because tomorrow is Mailbag Monday. I'm about to put the questions up on our Instagram, so you guys can go and send us in some questions. As always, Mailbag Monday will be very, very fun. Same time as today's show, same time as usual, 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, please leave a cheeky 5 stars. But thank you to Anthony, thank you to Bret, and thank you to David for joining me today. I need to get used to this new camera angle, but we will see you guys very, very soon. Enjoy your Sunday evening. Peace.